Man, that conversation was shut down worse than that GIF of Gumby running through the door when the guys are playing basketball. Have you seen that one? My favorite GIF in the whole world is these guys, they're throwing little like basketballs inside of their house, you know, like the basketball hoop that hangs over your door. Like they throw one up and this guy busts through the door dressed as Gumby and just slams the basketball back. It's, that's how hard I just shut down that conversation.
And then he just stands there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he stands there very like stoically, like, get out of my house. This is Gumby's house. So
my apologies for shutting down the conversation that hard. Anyway, here in the top right-hand corner of the map, Daybreak, we have our representative from It's GoSu, Red Protoss player, winner of the last game. It's GoSu.HwangSin. And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner, from Fusion eSports, our Teal Zerg player, Blade.
Blade. So is he the Vampire Hunter Blade, or is he some other variation of Blade?
Hopefully, and hopefully it's from like Blade 1 and not Blade 12. So there's 12 of them now, right? So
I think 16 or 17. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Where have you been?
That makes sense. So not keeping up on my Blade movies, apparently.
You missed the Resident Evil / Blade crossover in 3D.
I did.
In IMAX.
Yes.
I can't believe you would miss that. It's so amazing.
Have never seen any of the Resident Evil movies. So
let me tell you, the first one, decent.
Okay.
Decent movie experience. Every other one, just if you want to waste money and laugh at a movie that's not supposed to be funny, then that's fine. You can do Resident Evil series.
All right. Yep. I've been watching a lot of bad movies lately. Watched Tucker and Dale versus Evil last night.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That's it was goofy at times.
That was amusing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amusing. That's true. The sheriff gets hit in the head with the nails, and it's like, I don't think he's gonna walk it off.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. Resident Evil Resurrection 3D I watched in theaters with my friends at home, and Wesker is just like so ridiculous in that movie. It just doesn't even make sense ever. He's like, I don't know, but they've got some interesting writing going on over at the Resident Evil film studios. Either way, we do have HwangSin versus Blade now. Blade getting that spawning pool finished. Actually got his hatch dropped as well without too many problems there. So he's off to a nice start. HwangSin already looks like he wants to try and wall off this this big ramp area at his natural here.
We have lots of general merriment going on outside, so apologize if that got picked up. People are just laughing at us as we are confined to our small casting room, casting StarCraft here. But anyway, so let's see here now. It's nothing too out of the ordinary for both our players. That would expect another base to pop up for Fusion really any second. If he's going down that 3-base route, especially because he hasn't picked up any sort of gas or anything like that. And just going to make sure the way is clear. But, you know, nothing really out of the ordinary from HwangSin either. Double gassing a bit later than I would have thought, but nothing too weird.
That's true. We'll see Blade getting up to 3 bases now. What he's actually going to end up going, 3-base roach is actually, he can make something like 100 roaches in 5 seconds or something like that off 3 bases. So that's always a possibility. Or obviously he can tech up and get started on Infestation Pit or Spire or something like that. So we'll see actually as he continues to just drone up. He's still got quite a ways to go before he actually needs to make a real decision on tech.
Okay, well, HwangSin walling it up at the front. One little gap for a Zealot sticking there if need be. But everything's not too out of the ordinary. The question is going to be how quickly does HwangSin go for that 3rd and 4th gas? I mean, that'll start to show off his tech. I really love Blade's control of the map, though, at this stage of the game. He's got both the Xel'Naga towers. He's got Overlords in perfect positions to sacrifice themselves. He's sending Lings out everywhere to pick up on quick 3rd bases, any sort of proxy tech. Just anything along those lines. So Blade is just playing really diligently.
Yep, and Zerg obviously does have a little bit easier time than Protoss in doing this sort of map coverage. You've got these Overlords already that you have to build just to be able to make things. So obviously they can fly, they can head to those very safe spots on the map and provide some vision. Also, Zerglings are just incredibly cheap, so you can split them up, take both of those Xel'Naga towers, whereas Protoss would basically have to make a bunch of Zealots and kind of hide them all over the map, but you can't really, I mean, you could use probes to do it, but either probes or Zealots would be really a waste just providing vision. So Zerg has a couple of nice options for map control. The only problem is actual scouting information. They basically are reserved to sacrificing an Overlord every single time they want to do something.
You know, it's weird. I was thinking Magic Gathering there for a second. I was like, man, it'd be really cool. Because I thought of flyers that don't attack, and then I thought of Birds of Paradise, and then I thought about equipping Sword of War and Peace to Birds of Paradise, and you make Birds of War and Peace, and how basically imba that is. Then I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if in StarCraft you could just have something that would make any unit attack to some degree, but then I was like, wait, no, that's just banelings. So
put some upgrades on the Overlords so that they have a creep pooping attack instead of just a creep poop.
That's right.
Yes. So the poop is actually damaging. So
Correct.
he could hover over these probes, for example, and just
small AoE splash.
Destroy them.
Right.
Yep. So the Overlord does go down to that sentry. The flyer that can't attack that I always think of as Ornithopter. It's a 0-cost 0/1 flyer. You can put a Sword of War piece on that guy, but.
No, that actually works though, because like that's the one thing that misses. So I'm not going to delve too far. Okay, we'll stray away from Magic the Gathering talks, but I'll explain on Twitter if you guys ask.
One more Magic reference just to get it in there. Our Guild Wars 2 guild that Mirhi and I made, the guild name is Delver OP, and the tag is MTG. So we get a lot of weird questions from people who don't know what Magic is, and they're like, "What's Delver OP?" Like Justin Grendel's like, I have no idea what our clan is, or our guild. I have no idea what it means.
Delver op. That's true. Well, Delver is op, so.
That's true.
Hey, HwangSin loves playing around with DTs, and this is going to be no exception. In fact, he's going to drop with this Warp Prism at a few centuries. Kind of an interesting spot to do it. Going to cut off this third base rather than float around and try and, say, force field off the ramp in between the natural and the main.
Yeah, and he's actually got some decent force fields just to start this. He's going to corral this queen, get him stuck in the corner there. Going to try and finish him off with just those zealots. Warp Prism loaded up, so I'm not sure what he's actually... Oh, he's just protecting the sentries so that he can do another warp enough zealots. Actually, very nice micro, keeping the sentries away from those lings.
Yeah, he's actually doing a really nice job here, and he's going to pick off yet more roaches and a pretty decent amount of economy. I don't know if he's going to try and focus down the hatchery in a second or just take these more valuable targets, but trapping all of those roaches right in the middle, and the Zealots have very nice DPS once they're able to get right up on these units, and they will take a couple more roaches with them.
HwangSin needs to get that other sentry to attack the roaches so that he can just keep some more stuff alive, and now this sentry is going to go down. Oh, wow, he actually rescues it just in the last second. A couple of Zealots warping. Oh, DT's actually warping in. Okay, so DTs are going to quickly try to carve down the rest of this hatchery. So this was a calculated effort. That sentry did start the damage going on the hatchery, but now the DTs are quickly going to be able to finish that off. There's no detection here, no spore crawlers in production, one overseer somewhere, but he should be nearby soon. There he is, so this DT definitely going to go down, but HwangSin does the damage there to that third base with just a couple of DTs to finish it off.
That was a really impressive attack, too. Everything from the control of his units to make sure he kept all but one of the sentries alive, to the amount of roaches he killed, the force field placement to aid him as well. Didn't kill any workers through that, but obviously the hatch and all of those attack units was a very valuable goal.
Yeah, that is interesting. He didn't kill any workers, but the roaches were popping out right at the moment where he would have actually had a heyday on those workers. So nice timing from Blade, at least, to manage to keep those workers alive. Now he just has to replace that hatchery, and he'll be right back to where he was. Infestation Pit is nearly done now. Fungal on DTs, of course, exposes them, so that's another weapon that he can use against any Dark Templar that show up and try and snipe those hatches. He should at least build a Spore Crawler at each base here, knowing that DTs are actually already here.
Yeah, and HwangSin is just going to go ahead and cut those off for now. I mean, he's got one DT hit over at his Elnag Tower. He's got one with his army, but that's about it. Moving up to a Templar Archives now. Really wants to put the emphasis in Archons before anything else. No Robotics Bay yet, to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, I don't see one, so Colossi aren't going to be a threat, but High Templar and Archon certainly are.
I think I just had a flashback to the year 2000.
Oh.
In the year 2000. Mass DTs, when Brood War first came out, mass DTs was a thing.
Yeah.
And people, you would just see like the rippling waves of stuff coming at you, and you would just leave because you knew that there was no way. Their DPS was so high, you could just mix them in with your, like you sometimes see it in StarCraft 2, but in Brood War, right when the expansion came out, everyone was, it's like, man, they're invisible and they kill things. Like, this is insane. They're like Wraiths, but faster and stronger. And they don't have energy. Imagine DTs with energy. They run in and like run out of cloak suddenly, and like they're already like surrounded by Zerglings. That'd be terrible. Oh my God.
There are some people, like you said, who have been able to use them in their competition. I remember a game back from IPL 2 back last summer. When White Raw was playing, I believe it was Braddock. It may have been, I know it was a European Terran player. And I was like, oh no, the Terran players got perfect detection, and the DTs just carved up everything because they're DPS still. Overseer does, you know, due diligence there and make sure that there's no DTs flying overhead, but the hatchery is forced to be canceled. So once again, HwangSin just playing very, very annoyingly as he gets his own third base running.
Yep, and HwangSin's still got upgrades rolling as well. That's quite nice for him. He's adding on more gateways, so he can start to really just supplement his ground force even more. Curious what it looks like now. He's got 4 Immortals on the field, a couple of Zealots, lots of sentries still available for force fields, and no Colossi yet. No Bay at all, I think.
And no, still not.
Templar is his unit of choice for that splash damage.
Yeah, that's right. And Storm's already finished up, so... we'll see what he's going to be able to do. This is, a high Templar drop possibly. It looks like he worked in the units, picked up, and then got out of there. He'll bring that back at a later point, but of course now the high Templar is starting to accumulate energy, and that's what he wants. Now Blade, through this whole process, even though he's been down at base, he decided, all right, I was down at economy, so I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to spread creep like a madman, which he's done a very effective job of, and 2, I'm going to tech up as quickly as possible, and Greater Spire is already well on the way.
That's right. We'll see how many Broodlords he's able to actually crank out here before HwangSin starts his real assault. He does have an observer overhead, so Creep Tumors will be slain on the way. Does Storm hurt Creep Tumors? Are they technically a building, I guess? Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, so no damage from Storm. I was curious if he could just drop a Storm on a bunch of Creep Tumors and just keep rolling. But no, definitely not, as they are structures. Stargate coming up for HwangSin now could just mean that eventual tech toward Mothership, as this is the time that Greater Spire obviously starts to appear. So Vortex, obviously a very, very nice counter to Broodlord Infestor, as you've seen many times in the past.
Now we see the real effect, though, of what denying a third base will do to you. Oh, very nice catch of the Warp Prism. He's going to need 1 more fungal growth here in a second. HwangSin trying to get away. Not sure why that's... Oh boy, that is actually devastating. That's 3 Infestors killed.
Oh wow, so yeah, and the Templar didn't even die to that fungal. He dropped the fungal after the Warp Prism actually dropped everything, so still managed to do some damage, but HwangSin is coming up toward this eventual 5th base, probably going to be able to deny that, as there are only Spinecrawlers, and the DTs and Immortals just blast through those. The hatch was canceled, so now HwangSin basically just needs to make a decision which way does he want to go. The main force of Blade is just below him, and he is actually going to go straight for it. Fungal drop in the center of those forces. No force fields to be seen yet. There's a first Guardian Shield, force fields, and Storms all coming out at the same time. There's a Knurl on one of those Immortals, so Blade trying to do some micro as well, fungling and knurling those high-value targets, but HwangSin still standing his upgrades at 3-0, just doing tons of damage.
All those units very, very low, and I was going to say, though, before that, we saw the effect of denying that third base because of how little gas was available for Broodlords initially, and, you know, just setting those back that far has actually been devastating to Blade. Now, we see HwangSin making his way in with a lot of Zealots at the same time that he's attacking up the front as well. This force up at the top is actually getting cleaned up pretty effectively. Blade doing a very nice job of holding on there with taking minimal losses, but now he's got to defend this up at the front. He does have a lot of Broodlords in the air, and there's honestly not a lot of anti-airs, so HwangSin actually has to back up.
That's true. HwangSin just started his Mothership, but aside from that, he's only got 6 Stalkers remaining right there, 2 Sentries, maybe 3, but not a ton of anti-air, like you said, and the Broodlords actually have a narrow window here where they could do a lot of damage. Colossi actually coming up now for HwangSin, not any anti-air there either, so the fact that this 4th base got cleaned up, or excuse me, not killed, basically was protected very well by Blade with those Infestors, means that HwangSin is now in sort of a scramble mode to get prepared before these Broodlords show up at his 4th base.
Now, he is making a Mothership at the moment. The Infestors, though, have recovered most of their energy, so Fungals are going to be a very real threat here, and as we already saw, Neuroparasite is finished. Are there any Overseers with this army, though? No, there are not, so this DT is going to work. 7 kills already and just continuing to rack those up. However, it looks like HwangSin's going to have to give up his 4th.
HwangSin could actually focus Infestors here instead of, I mean, just letting him carve whatever he wants. But here we go. Lots of Zealots warping in. 4th base going down for HwangSin. The DT does get finally spotted. An Overseer army shows up, and the Broodlords are still rolling in unmitigated. All these Zealots going to pick off the last of these Spinecrawlers. It'll be a free hatch for them after that. And HwangSin's Mothership will be arriving soon, but I don't know if it'll have the energy for Vortex. Do they spawn with 100 energy? I think it's only 75, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not enough for a Vortex right away. So it's only 50, actually,
50.
to the best of my knowledge. So the Broodlords, though, getting picked off very, very quickly. Even with the pretty decent number of forces that were sitting there, it's not going to be enough. And HwangSin may even be able to take out a base at the same time. Yes, he will. So HwangSin fights back the army, this devastating death wall that was out there for our Zerg player. And it's just not going to be enough for Blade. The last of the Colossi do fall. Blade has to fall back now, though, on no, he did finish up a 4th, but still significantly hampered.
Yes, so lots of base trading, not entirely base trading, just trading one base each. And this third base here for Blade is in a little bit of peril, but it does clean that up decently well with all those forces that he's got there. HwangSin is on the move once again, and he does have some Colossi in the mix now. No, maybe not. Where are they at?
Well, he had them, but a few of them were killed.
The Corruptors
so
finished them off.
Yeah,
All right, he didn't
like
rebuild
any anymore.
Okay, so he's done with Colossi. That was a failed experiment. Is the mothership still standing?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I'm not sure where it's at.
Yeah, I didn't see what that force. Okay, he's slowly making his rounds, checking on all of his probes.
Energy.
Yeah, he's got 100 energy for that lovely Vortex. The next time these two armies clash, HwangSin does have a lot banked, actually. I'm surprised he's not just cranking stuff out of every production facility. That's Stargate, for example, that robo facility that he's got, as well as, you know, just constant weapons. I'm not sure what his money is going to go towards here. He's a little bit behind in supply, so I'm actually surprised that he's just building cannons at the moment.
Yeah, staying safe and putting down a couple more bases for now, but you're right. Not the largest army in the world to go along with this. That is a ton of High Templar. But don't forget, 4 of them are sitting in this War Prism, which is now back underway.
Yep, he might want to consider dropping. Oh, wow, right as the drones arrive. What a good timing there. Zealots being warped in again. 4 High Templar sitting in that War Prism, able to drop at another base. He might just go straight to the 3rd now and try to storm on those drones while these forces are getting cleaned up by the Zealots. And yeah, there he goes. He's already on his way. We'll see if he manages to snag any drone kills at that 3rd.
Looks like eventually, with continued reinforcements here, the Zealots will get cleaned up, but it's going to require a couple more roaches here. But yet again, a nice job.
The 4th.
Uh-oh, here we go. And a few drones go down, but very nice reaction time from Blade, and he gets out of there with a lot of that damage mitigated.
That's true. HwangSin is actually taking some more damage again at his 5th base location now. Those Broodlords still standing with not a lot to stop them. HwangSin is actually playing a little bit like a Terran now with these drops just constantly throughout the map, trying to keep his Zerg opponent occupied. But with Blade's unit composition right now, I'm not sure what HwangSin's going to be able to do.
Oh, and look at those storms behind the forces as well. A good number of units did go down, but it looks like Blade wants to finally clean up, excuse me, that War Prism once and for all. Ooh, attacking into this mothership could be hard, though. There is a neural between these. Yes, there is a neural still left over. The amount of energy there in those infestors, if they can get a hold of it.
We've got a Hyun Squirtle situation in the works here, maybe. Let's see if the neural actually happens. The Vortex would actually be really clutch right now. There's the neural. No, no,
the
it wasn't.
Vortex hits every single one of the infestors.
That was so close. I really thought he was going to manage to get that neural, but the Broodlord's now taking a little bit of damage. Oh, 2nd Vortex already, so he got up to 200 energy really quickly there, and managed to drop 2 Vortexes. He only has 1 Archon, though, and still not a lot of fighting forces. There's still a ton of Broodlords off to the left side. It looks like Blade actually might just roll right through here and say, I don't care about your drops anymore.
This is a crazy game. I mean, there's still such a bank from HwangSin at the moment. He's not putting on any additional pressure to these bases. Blade needs to get to the point, though, where he can start just spamming down hatcheries for additional production and income here in a second. He's got tons of gas, but almost no minerals to speak of.
I don't think he needs to. He's got no answer. HwangSin has no answer for these Broodlords. He already used 2 Vortexes. He's got a handful of Stalkers, but all his tech is just getting chewed through now. He's got probably no probes left. Look at that unit tab real quick. Just see a harvester count. 53, so they are all at that bottom base right now. Wow, he's even mined out at his main and gassed out. So 4 Archons up here, but he is split. Obviously his Stalkers and Mothership are at that other base of his. So Blade is easily just staying as one cohesive unit and destroying everything in HwangSin's main. Yeah,
this is incredibly impressive. And HwangSin, no War Prism out there, can't get his units out on the map at all, making his way up with a few Blink Stalkers, but now finally warping in a few Zealots, but I mean, I'm not sure what good that's going to do him now. It's a little bit too late.
Yep, so Blade, very well played throughout, managed to stay alive through a lot of storm drops, zealot harassment, stuff like that, and, you know, bided his time long enough for this Broodlord count to get high enough for him to actually just do what he's doing right now and destroy everything in HwangSin's main. He dealt with the Dark Templar quite well as after he lost that initial hatchery, but everything since then has, again, been pretty smooth for Blade.
HwangSin trying to bunker up now, it looks like, on one base. Now finally moving out, and nice job catching those infestors in the middle of the map, but maybe a case of too little too late, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, he's going to keep going. Looks like Blade is taking out the last of the structures inside HwangSin's main. After that, obviously, he's going to have to move south and look for that additional base that HwangSin has. So HwangSin's army position is really going to be interesting here, but honestly, Blade has had uninterrupted mining for several minutes now. He's still got a large flock of Broodlords, and this number of Stalkers is not going to be enough to stop it, no matter what their upgrades look like. Fungals as well on the side of Blade, going to keep those Stalkers in place. It looks like he went for that Fungal perhaps again, didn't quite land it. Lings coming in now. Broodlords can really just shoot away at any target they find and probably still be okay just due to the sheer number.
That's a lot of Changelings as well. Go Changeling attack. Yeah, I mean, a few more Stalkers being warped in, but it's 54 supply to 163 now, and Fusion eSports Blade looks like he's going to tie things up once again. It's GoSu losing one of their strongest players here, and that is going to be a very big issue.
That's true. Switch and Blade both taking wins now for Fusion eSports. HwangSin still just desperately clinging to hope. There is another Vortex, but there's the GG, and Blade has done it.
Yeah, and nice little spot there by